What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and a very Merry Christmas to everybody tuning in today and everyone having a bet this weekend. This is the betting show, and we have 5 tasty bets for this weekend. We have 4 from the massive UFC 296 card, and we also have 1 cheeky bet from KSW 89, because I don't want to let this week go and this betting show go without talking about KSW, because this is a fantastic KSW card as well. Just a shame that it's on the same night as one of the biggest UFC cards of the year, and you know, it could be the best UFC card of the year. I was looking through some of the awards this year, and today, but some of the awards for the year, and it skips my mind now. I think a UFC 290 is the standout card for card of the year. There was like 4 sub 1 minute finishes, and there was the Volkanovski card, whatever that number was. I think it was 290, but this card could very well, it has the prospects of being better than that. Now, it'll be very, very, very tough, but that's how good of a card this is. But the KSW card, very, very good as well. So I'm really looking forward to this weekend, really looking forward to the bets, and I would say I have a few cheeky bets this week. I'm feeling like there might be a bit of disagreement in the comment section this week. But before we get into the bets, let us know in the comment section below. Give me your 1 bet for UFC 296. If I get a good few of them next week, or maybe the week after, if it's Christmas, we'll review them and we'll go back and we'll say who had the best bet, and we'll give you a big shout out and everything on the podcast. So let us know. First thing you do if you're watching this, give me your 1 bet for the card in the comment section below here on YouTube, and we will talk about them next week. I'll be in the comment section as well, as I always am in YouTube. People giving me stick. The Sean Brady crew, the Kelvin Gastelum crew last week were giving me stick, but I had the last laugh on that one. Although, you know, usually the YouTube crew are smarter than me. So, let's review last week before we get to next week. I was above in Dublin. Very good crowd there. I know a lot of the Sheehan Show fans were around. I was even talking to Dan Hardy, who said he was a big fan of the show and stuff as well, which was absolutely fantastic. But it was a very good night of fights, a very interesting night of fights, and we went 1-1 on the night in PFL, but we went 2 for 3 on the night everywhere. So we'll go through them. The Andreas Binder fight in PFL, that fell out. He didn't make the weight, so unfortunately that fight didn't happen. We had Simeon Powell losing at -163. It was a tough one. It was a tough one, if we're being honest. It was the sort of fight you look at and you think, if that fight happened again, if he was a little bit older, would it be and when I say older, I mean like a little bit more of a, you know, a back catalogue of fights, a little bit more top opponents. Would he have gone through that one? Maybe, but he didn't in the end. We Nathan Kelly in at -450. I said that was a good price last week, even though it was -450, and I think people would agree with that. And then Kelly Roundtree again at -240. Not the biggest prices. I don't like giving those small prices, but look, they won and that was it. And then Chris Gutierrez, I haven't even watched that fight yet, to tell you the truth, but I read the recap on Sherdog, and it did not seem like he did very well. So the flyer of Chris Gutierrez didn't hit, and as I said, it was a flyer last week. And my flyer this week is actually a pretty similar flyer, but we'll get to that in time. Overall, after hitting 2 from 3, my record is now 88 of 176. So if my mathematics are correct, that's exactly 50%. So I think I'll have at least 1 more betting show, if not 2, before the end of the year. So I'm really hoping to stay around that 50%. Although I do think some of my bets this week are risky. The overall on the Fliers, 13 of 44. I haven't hit a flyer in about 6 months here, lads. So we had such a run with the Fliers at the start of the year. Remember the +700 Umar Nurmagomedov? What a flyer that was. But yeah, we haven't hit one in a while. And this flyer this week is very risky as well. But we shall get to that. Right, here we go. Bet number 1 this week. All the rest of my bets, moneyline bets. This one is via submission, and it's Paddy Pimblett at +200 to win via submission. Now, I've discussed this fight, I believe, briefly before here and in other places. I talked about, wait till we get to the week of the fight, and we'll talk about the betting and all. And now the lines are out. So let's quickly have a look. So it's plus 200 Paddy Pimblett by submission. That's my pick. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the lines for this fight, because I think they're so interesting, and I have so many different thoughts about this fight from top to bottom, honestly. The line for Pimblett and Ferguson from one betting shop to another, there's a massive difference. Minus 250 for Pimblett up to minus 355. All the way from plus 200 from Tony to up to plus 280 for Tony in places. It's a massive difference. If you want Tony to get the knockout, plus 900. Tony submission, plus 1400. Paddy to get the knockout, plus 350. Plus 200 for the submission is which I have given you. There was a few other ones I was kind of looking at. Paddy to win by decision, plus 250. Tony to win by decision is plus 550. And we can go on after that. And there's obviously a lot more bets, and there will be even closer to time as well. I think the only bet out of all of that I liked is the one I've given you, is the plus 200. I think Paddy is way too small of a price. Minus 250, I think that's an outlier. I think that price probably won't exist pretty soon, because looking at all the other betting places, minus 355, minus 375, minus 330, minus 360, minus 390, minus 360. So that minus 250, we can almost take that out. I think it's a bit of an outlier. Paddy Pimblett's going to be around minus 360, 370 for this fight, unless it changes. That's not good enough of a price for me. It really, really isn't. Tony Ferguson at plus 280 might be, but I don't know, I'm not that confident on either. Here's how I think this fight will go, and I have a few different ways, or a few different instances I think which could happen in this fight. So I know I've been watching Paddy Pimblett for a very long time. You know, obviously covering the sport in the UK and Ireland. I've covered his run up through it, and I know what Paddy Pimblett is as a fighter. I was talking with my colleague Graham over in the Severe MMA podcast the other day, and we described him as, if people watch Liverpool, like they call him heavy metal football. Paddy Pimblett's like a heavy metal MMA fighter. He goes for it. He tries to go for the finish. Very much attack, use my athleticism and strength, which he does have, to overwhelm guys and beat them. We've seen him doing it to lots of guys in the UFC and outside of the UFC down through the years. Behind that, he has some very good parts of his game and some parts of his game which are lacking. So the obvious ones which are lacking, his striking isn't amazing, although massively improved, I would say, over the last few years. But still, I don't think it's at the level to compete with the top guys in the UFC lightweight division. Now, he has been out for 11 months with an ankle injury, so maybe in that time, you know, his striking could have improved. We can talk about how, you know, ankle injuries also affect preparing for striking, but you get what I mean. Maybe there are some improvements in there. He's been back for a while now training, but that to me is his biggest issue, especially his defensive striking. He takes an awful lot of punches. Also, his two biggest losses in the last few years in cage warriors have been down to wrestling as well. He's Nad Narimani and Sodden back, but out-wrestled him in lots of different ways. Julian Erosa in the fight that was very close kind of outstruck him, but that was a good 5-6 years ago now at this stage, although, you know, he's not a massively similar fighter to Din, although better in many areas. What Paddy's very good at then is the jiu-jitsu. He's good knockout power as well. I wouldn't say he's the best offensive striker in the world, but he's a powerful guy, you know, an athletic guy, but very good on the ground, very good jiu-jitsu, very good transitions, very brave as well. You know, all action, brave sort of guy, right? So if you're looking at this from a positive point of view, and I think that's where I'm going with this, right? And that's why I've gone for the plus 200 submission. Paddy will go out there. There'll be a bit of striking. He'll get the fight to the ground and he'll submit Tony Ferguson. You might be thinking, Shawnee, Tony Ferguson, he's very good on the ground, isn't he? It's going to be hard to submit Tony Ferguson. Tony's been submitted in his career before. You know, he has 9 losses and 3 of them by submission. So 33% obviously of his fights have ended by submission. He got submitted last time out, even against Bobby Green, who isn't exactly a submission artist. The other two are a while back, but And actually, he got submitted by Nate Diaz before that, and the other one was Kevin Lee, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it? Or did he? Because I don't know. But he's been submitted a good one. No, he submitted Kevin Lee. I got mad. But he's been submitted a few times, right? So it's not like it's impossible. Impossible. The other side of it then, right? And so here, that's why I'm picking it. That's the whole reasoning behind this bet. Now let me talk you out of this this bet for a little bit. I think if Tony Ferguson has been convinced by, what's that lad's name, David Goggins, or I don't really know. I know he's that like self-help Tony Robbins type of guy, isn't he? If he has convinced him that, the weird thing about it, I know everyone's like saying he's doing loads of really hard training and all, which, and I've seen a lot of people who are smarter than me who said that's not good, and they're probably right. But if he can actually convince him in his mind that he can beat Paddy Pimblett, I actually think he's a massive chance of beating him. Because if, like, Tony is the, if Tony can let his hands go and put him on Paddy Pimblett, he doesn't need to be Tony Ferguson of 2015 to win that fight. Right? He really doesn't. He just needs to be good on the night. And I think he will win. Like, if Paddy Pimblett meets someone who's not afraid to fight, which Tony Ferguson absolutely isn't, who's not going to wilt in front of him, which maybe, Tony Ferguson wouldn't have done a few years ago, let's put it that way. And as someone who has good hands, which Tony Ferguson had a few years ago, that fighter will absolutely beat him, or a better wrestler. One of those two people will beat Paddy Pimblett. The problem is Tony Ferguson is shot, right? There's no doubt about that. But is he shot so badly that he can't put it together for maybe a round or two? Like, even guys say like a Frankie Edgar, a Marlon Moraes, a BJ Penn, when they have been, and no disrespect to any of them, I hate even speaking about them in that way, all very good fighters, all champions in their own right, but they've all been able to show bits and pieces of it, especially Marlon Moraes, I think, all being able to show bits and pieces of it, even when they were a good bit past their prime. Can Tony Ferguson do that? Because if he can, he's a massive chance, I think, against Paddy Pimblett, because Paddy is a very limited fighter. Right, Paddy, in my opinion, is not going to get to the very, very top. He's done a great job to get to where he has gotten to, but I think he's about to meet his ceiling. I wonder, does Tony Ferguson believe that and believe in himself? Because, as I say, I'll say it again, if he does, he's a massive chance of winning this. My thoughts are that he doesn't. My thoughts are that he can't let those hands go. My thoughts are that Paddy will probably lay a few shots on him, and Tony will be slower than usual. He won't be as proactive as usual. He won't be as confident as usual. And Paddy is going to be very confident. And he's going to go in there, get a trip, get on top of Tony Ferguson, and probably end up taking his back and submitting him. So that's what I'm going for. It's a fight that I would very much not take Paddy Pimblett at the moneyline price, which, just to reiterate again, is minus 370-ish. Would not in a million years take him at that price. No way. If you'd ask me who would I take at the moneyline price, I'd take Tony Ferguson. No shadow of a doubt about it. But the submission price plus 200. Also, another thing on Paddy Pimblett. People who maybe haven't watched Paddy for a long time maybe think he's a striker. He has a couple of submissions now in the UFC, so maybe less so than usual. But when he came into the UFC, obviously went in there with Vendramini, knocked him out. There's been a good bit of striking since as well, even though there is a couple of submissions. Paddy Pimblett is a submission artist. He's 20 wins, 9 by submission, and that's what he's best at. It really is. So that's another point to go towards him winning by submission. So that's bet number 1: Paddy Pimblett to win by submission plus 200. The next bet I'm going for is a bit of a risky bet, but it's a bit of a feel bet for me as well. And I'm going for Josh Emmett to beat Bryce Mitchell at, let me just put the price for you again, plus 163. Plus 163. Now, Josh Emmett, his record, first things first, I often like to show the records here. 18-4, right? Lost to 2 absolute beasts last time out. Topuria went to decision with him, and Yair Rodriguez. Before that, he lost to Jeremy Stevens and Desmond Green. Right there are his 4 losses. Are any of them wrestlers? That's the first question we need to ask ourselves. And when I looked at this, I was thinking to myself, Josh Emmett. Right. How does Josh Emmett beat Bryce Mitchell? And how does Bryce Mitchell beat Josh Emmett? Well, Bryce Mitchell beats Josh Emmett by going in, taking him down and putting him on the ground. That's the only way Bryce Mitchell knows. That's how he wins fights. And then I went and I looked at Josh Emmett's record and go, no one has ever done that to him. Like, let's look at a few guys who maybe could have done that to him. Now, there aren't a whole lot, right? But Amir Bektic didn't do it to him. Michael Johnson, yeah, a little bit, didn't do it to him. Scott Holtzman didn't do it to him. And then we're going back another bit, and there's some other guys in there, you know. I'm sure I'm missing out someone there if you look back through his record. You know, the likes of Cater, Ige, Burgos, all kind of strikers, but any of them could have taken him now, and none, you know, or tried to. Ricardo Lamas is the best example, you know, who's obviously a very good wrestler, and at the time, 2017, he does a lot of striking as well, granted, no problem with that, but nobody has ever been able or never has done it. Now, you could say maybe he's never fought a wrestler as good as Bryce Mitchell, and that's a fair point as well, but I've always watched Josh Emmett and thought he's a very... he is a very stoic, stony type of guy. Hard to take down, hard to beat, hard to push back. You know, I remember watching tape on him before the Topuria fight and before the Rodriguez fight, and thinking like he's a more limited striker now, and not even limited, like maybe less varied than those sort of guys, but very effective as well. You know, he throws with big power. He has good cardio as well. You know, we've seen him going 5 rounds and all. We know what he is as a fighter, and we know that it's solid. Whereas Bryce Mitchell on the other side of it, you know, unless he takes you down, unless he dominates you on the ground, it's going to be hard for him to win a fight. Now, we've seen bits and pieces of it, and with different, you know, Dan Egan, he's beaten strikers like him, obviously, in Barboza and others as well. But I just feel like that Topuria fight showed that if you can stop a few takedowns and let the shots go and refuse to be overwhelmed by him, he's there for the beating. He's there for the taking. And I think at this stage of his career, it'll either go two ways for Josh Emmett. It'll either be his last bastion of hope at the very top, or it'll be like, I'm not letting this young Tug Nasty get past me. And I'm going for that one. I think he'll stop a takedown. I think he'll land shots. And I think that plus 163 could be looking very good. Again, one I'm not massively confident on, but I think the logic behind it is sound enough. Not always a guarantee, but there you go. Bet number 2. Bet number 3, I'm going for Leon Edwards at minus 130. Minus 130. Leon Edwards is the price right now, that, and as everyone knows, that price could move, could change, could flicker, could flutter, go anywhere, but he's minus 130 now. A bit surprised the betting is that close. Colby goes for anywhere from plus 130 to plus 105 in the betting I'm looking at here. Most places have him around plus 120. Leon goes from 155 to 130. Most places have him around 148-ish or so. The graph shows him... The graph actually shows him starting as an underdog. And then he was around the minus 114 for a long time, and now he's gone out a bit. So, you know, after this, he could go out a little further. As I said, minus 148 is one of those prices. I'm looking at minus 130 now in the one we usually take. So we'll go with minus 130, but as I said, look out for this. Right. Here's my thoughts on this one. As people may know after listening to this show and other podcasts, I'm not exactly the biggest Leon Edwards believer in the world. Like, I never thought Leon would become champion. I was wrong. I think he will be beaten in the next year. I could be wrong on that again. I could be wrong. But with that all said, I still think he'll win this fight. And there's 2 reasons, I think, for it. I think his skill set is designed to beat guys like Colby. And I think Colby's skill set is designed not to be guys like Leon. And that might sound odd, right? And I should have said Colby's current skill set, because I feel like his old skill set absolutely was designed to be guys like Leon. But this is a sentence I've uttered about 12 times on podcasts recently. Some people fight a person and then they keep fighting them for the rest of their career, right? And I feel like Colby's a little bit like that with Masvidal. So with Usman Masvidal. I had Masvidal on the mind because he did a little bit different against Masvidal. And the problem with this as well is, right, there isn't a lot of tape on this, so this is kind of me just musing a little bit. But he fought the first time against Usman, tried a few takedowns, couldn't take him down, and then kind of struck with him and tried to play a Leon Edwards type of game, a well-rounded type of game. Didn't work. And in the next fight, it was just all of that. Wasn't great. And in the Masvidal fight, we can kind of write that off, you know. I just wonder if he goes out there and tries to play a kind of a roundabout game with Leon Edwards and doesn't try to relentlessly take him down, that he will just get kind of picked apart by Leon Edwards and lose rounds. I think there's a method of victory for Colby, and I think it's full forward, non-stop takedowns. Right? The old Colby. But Colby is now old. He's no longer the old Colby. He is old Colby. He's 35 years of age. He's barely fought in the last few years. I think that might be a massive issue for him, because you not need to just be on it. You need to be on it in a certain way, fighting a certain way, in a way that you haven't been fighting in the biggest fights you've had recently. And that can't be easy. That cannot be easy. Whereas Leon, you know, he went out. What did he do in these last couple of fights? He went out there and fought a good wrestler who can also strike, and he had to outstrike him. That's exactly what, and like, Colby's a good striker as well, right? Colby can strike. I know people maybe underrate him and maybe they don't like him, and you know, I wouldn't blame him. But, you know, I respect what he is as a fighter, which is a very good fighter. But I think, and when I said earlier, Leon Edwards is designed to beat guys like Colby, like he is designed to get his game working against guys who can wrestle and have a good bit of striking as well. Like Leon Edwards, I said this many times, he's not the best guy in the world in any single area, but he's probably like the 7th best guy in the world in more areas than anyone else in the world, right? And that is a very hard guy to beat unless you are very, very good in a lot of areas or absolutely elite in one area. Now, if Colby is absolutely elite in the wrestling and can continue to do it all the time, he can win that way, absolutely. My thinking is he won't be, and he can't be anymore, and that Leon will have the answer for it. And that's why I'm going from, do you know what, I think it's a pretty good price. I think it's going to be a longer fight. Keep an eye out for the decision betting maybe and stuff later in the week, but minus 130, Leon Edwards straight up. Next bet I'm going for, this is the KSW bet. I'm backing history here. History. And I'm going for Salahdine Parnasse at plus 138 to be the first ever, well, maybe not first ever, but one of the first ever, whatever it might be, 3-weight world champion fighters in a major promotion. He's going for the welterweight title as the current featherweight and lightweight champion. He's fighting against Adrian Bartosinski. I have a full preview of that, probably already out, I would say, at this stage. This is going to have to be perfect. He's going to have to be fast and accurate and defensively good and have a prolonged 5-round game plan to win this fight. Bartosinski is fast for a welterweight compared to, obviously, a featherweight lightweight. He hits like an absolute truck at his weight, and now he's fighting a guy from 1 and 2 weight classes below. So he's a very good fighter. A very good fighter. But Parnasse, I think, is special. He's a real special talent. Win or lose in this fight, still a real special talent. And I'm backing that. I'm backing his talent, and I'm backing history. And I just think it'll be cool if he does it, and I think it'd be cool to have a bet in it as well. And I like that price. When I did my preview for this, I thought honestly, even though maybe that was the wrong thing, I thought Parnasse might be a slight favourite. But the fact that he is the underdog, and the fact that he's not just the underdog, but plus 138, which is a pretty good price. Like, let's say if he was plus 110 or something, it'd be a little bit different. But he is a pretty sizable enough underdog. And I like that price. I believe in him. I believe he can do it. Now, will he do it? Different story, absolutely. But I think he can do it. Plus 138. Let's go for that Salahdine Parnasse over at KSW. Just while we're on KSW, there are some very, very good fights over there this weekend. The Materla Palak fight, minus 450 for Palak, plus 300 for Materla. I'd be going for Palak even at that price. Janikovsky against Rakhmonov. Tommy Rakhmonovsky's the favourite, minus 188. I do like him there. I like Held at minus 200 as well in his fight there. I love the fight between Wilson Varela and Sebastian Rakovsky. That's one of the closest fights on the card, minus 150 for Rakovsky. I'd probably go for him at that as well. Pesta and Baylor. This is the underdog I'm going for on the card. Victor Pesta plus 115. Baylor lost last time out for the title. Pesta, if he wins, will be fighting for the title next. Now, that's no guarantee, but it feels like that's what they're trying to set up. And you know what? They might be smarter than me, so I'll go for Pesta on that one, a plus 115. And yeah, those are the main fights from KSW. Right, fifth bet of the week. The Flyer, as I said, it's a money line bet, and I'm going for my guy. I have a poster of him right there. He used to be behind me. Maybe I'll move it behind me at some stage. Stephen Wanderer by Thompson to beat Shavkat Rakhmonov at plus 430. Now, we're talking about Flyers here. We're talking about practice. We're not talking about the game. We're talking about Flyers here. And people probably thinking, Sean, what the f*** are you thinking? I probably shouldn't be cursing on YouTube videos. That's not good for the analytics. Anyway, beat me out. John, beat me. I realised, look, Rakhmonov is the favourite. He should be the favourite. You know, if you were to give me the two of them, who's going to win, I would probably pick Rakhmonov. But you can't tell me Wonderboy's not without a chance. You can't tell me he's not without a chance, especially considering what we've seen recently. You know, Rakhmonov, he's 17-0, no doubt about it, right? No doubt he's a very good fighter. But was he amazing against Magny and Neal? Did he show bits of issues? Did he get hit a few times? You know, did he? Do you know who didn't get hit against Jeff Neal? Wonder by Thompson. Joe beat Kevin Holland last time out. Wonder by Thompson. Kevin Holland's a better fighter than anyone that Rakhmonov has ever beaten. Don't tell me one of the greatest kickboxers of all time to ever step inside the UFC has no chance against Rakhmonov. And the thing about Rakhmonov is as well, Rakhmonov is not Shavkat, right? He's not Bilal. He's not a guy who's just going to immediately go across the cage and try to take you down. No, he's fighting Wonderboy, so maybe he will, granted. But in the past, he hasn't always been that guy. He will fight with you, he will strike with you, and he will get hit by you as well. You do that against Wonderboy, you have trouble. And trouble could be brought here. And if this works, if this happens, if Wonderboy wins, plus 430 is going to look mighty awful tasty. As a flyer, throw a fiver at it you never want to see again. As my boys in the CME would say, I love it. I think that's an insane price, plus 430. I think, look, Rakhmonov should be the favourite, but I don't think it should be that far apart. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Like, imagine Wonderboy on the outside. Rakhmonov is coming in, trying to throw his pressure. Comes in with a big shot too much. Boom. Question mark kick in the face. Boom. Teep. Boom. Leg kick. Boom. Front kick. Doesn't know where he is. Wonderboy starts attacking with his hands then. Pushed him against the cage. Wheel kick. Job done. Cash the tickets. Merry Christmas. That's it. That's my pick. You could call me biased, and you might be right in this one. Right, let's look at some of the other prices then from the UFC. Rakhmonov in that fight is around somewhere between minus 550 and minus 600. Actually, his one price here is minus 670. So take that as you may. The other title fight then, Pantoja and Rival, minus 200 for Pantoja, all the way into minus 175. Rival plus 160. Again, I mentioned my colleague Graham. He was very, very surprised that this was that close, considering they fought not too long ago. Pantoja won pretty easily, and he's a champion now. I think that's a good price. It was really one I was looking at carefully. He's given one of my bets. I do like Pantoja there. If you get him anywhere inside of minus 180, I think I'd take him. I like him at that. What about Ian Gary Vicente Luque? The prices here are very varied. I see minus 430. I see minus 250. I see minus 375. Mostly around minus 375 for Ian Gary. Plus 300-ish is the normal price for Vicente Luque. Look, I like Ian Garry to win the prize. You can call me to win the fight. You can call me biased, whatever you want. But I think Ian is taller, younger, faster, and hits harder. Ian's ground game has, people can question that. It's always been very good. He fought a BJJ black belt for the Cage Warriors title and beat him and fought him on the ground for a lot of that fight with basically no corner as well, and won that fight. There's some people who haven't been watching Ian Garry for his whole career and don't know much about him, but Ian Garry can fight on the ground. I'll tell you that now. Does that mean he won't get beaten or submitted by Vicente Luque? No, because anyone could if they hit the ground, because Vicente is that good. But he's no mug and he's not going to get destroyed there easily if it goes there automatically. But I do think Ian will be able to keep him somewhat at the end of the jab, land a few counters. I think a longer fight is in store here. I think it depends on how much Luque opens up, because if he opens up a lot, I could see Ian getting him out of there. But I think this may be an Ian Garry decision. But I do fancy Ian to win it. Really looking forward to this fight though, because Luque will push him, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he reacts to that. There's been a lot of drama and stuff coming into this fight as well. The mental side of it for Ian it must be so hard to deal with, and I'm very much hoping he deals with that well, and we have the fight we all desire. So yeah, I'm going for Ian Garry to win that fight. I don't like the prices though, a bit much for me. We talked about Mitchell, Emmett, Aldana Rosa. Interesting fight. Aldana around minus 200, plus 170 for Rosa. Again, depends how Aldana kind of bounces here. She has the talent, but when you put on a display like she did against Amanda Nunes, and look, losing to Amanda Nunes, there's no disrespect in that or anything, but she just didn't turn up. Very hard to turn up again in the fight after that. So, I'm probably picking her, but I wouldn't give her as one of my bets for the week. If you see something in Rosa and you think she has a chance, I wouldn't talk you out of it, to be honest. And then we have Lipski O'Neill. Again, Lipski, if she turns up, and she's plus 175 here at one place. I really like Casey O'Neill, minus 200-ish. Oh, that Lipski price. I swore to myself the last time I'd never bet on Lipski again, because I either bet for her or bet against her, and I lose every time. Right? So I'm going to say Lipski at plus 175. That's my bet. But you should probably back O'Neill based on that, because I always get it wrong with Lipski. Keller and Garbrandt, interesting fight. I think Brian Keller is a good fighter and a good trier and all, but geez, I don't think he's at the same level of Cody Garbrandt. But at the same time, where is Cody Garbrandt right now? How is his chin looking? How is his preparation looking and all of that? Brian is not exactly the hardest hitter in the world, and he's been off a really bad neck operation, I think, and things as well. Probably lean Garbrandt on that. And then, that Colby and Edwards, obviously, the big main event. Edwards around the minus 130, Colby anywhere from plus 130 to I see him one place plus 105 here, so that's pretty close. But yeah, that is it. Those are my bets for the week. Let's get a quick recap of those. First bet, Paddy Pimblett wins by submission plus 200. Josh Emmett plus 163, straight up moneyline bet. As is Leanne Edwards at minus 130. Plus 138 for Salahdine Parnasse over the main event of KSW 89. And the flyer of the week is Wonderboy. Steve Wonderboy Thompson plus 430 to win. Against Shavkat or Rakhmonov. All right, everyone. I will leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning in all year. I really appreciate you. We'll have podcasts throughout the whole holiday season and getting them ready as we speak. Well, after we speak here. There's going to be lots of stuff out there, so stay tuned. Sherdog.com, our YouTube channel is going to be packed. Subscribe, give the thumbs up, let me know in the comment section below your bet from the week, and we'll talk to you over the Christmas. Thank you to everybody for listening. We'll see you all next time.